Hi writers, I'm Lauren Sapala, and today I'm talking about the biggest mistake INFJ perfectionist writers make during the writing process. This happens to so many INFJ writers where they have a great idea, they start writing, and then writing becomes painfully hard for them. And there's so much resistance that comes in, and every writing session is so miserable that they don't even want to continue with the project. So what is this thing that INFJ writers are doing? In a nutshell, they're trying to edit at the same time they're trying to write. What they think they're doing is solving a problem. They think that this is a system that is working for them. So they'll write a chapter, or they'll write a scene, or they'll even write a couple of paragraphs, and then they'll immediately go back in the same writing session and start trying to clean it up. They're trying to polish it, they're trying to restructure it, they're trying to change out different words. Maybe they didn't like the choice of that word, they want to put something in better. So what they're doing is they're editing as they're writing. So when an INFJ writer who's a perfectionist who comes to me with this problem where they're like, I'm stopping and starting, I'm not really making any real progress, I'm going over a lot of the same ground, I wrote 3 chapters a year ago, I've reworked those same chapters over and over again, and I can't seem to move forward. They usually think that they need, they'll say like, I need a kick in the butt, like I just need someone to really push me and get me going so that I can continue to make progress. The real problem is that INFJ writers who have perfectionism have high anxiety. And when they are editing at the same time they're writing, the anxiety is being allowed to run the show. INFJs in general tend to have high anxiety. I have very high anxiety. I'm an INFJ. And when an INFJ writer has anxiety and also perfectionism, it's kind of like a match made in hell. It can really derail you from the writing process. What happens when you have anxiety? You have a lot of trouble with uncertainty. You have a lot of trouble with the unknown. Usually you came out of a situation, whether in your childhood or in your past, where when things were uncertain and unknown and unpredictable, things were also very bad. So maybe you had parents you couldn't rely on. Maybe you were in a relationship that was toxic or dangerous, and you really couldn't be certain of the outcome. And so what happens is you have this anxiety. We're also very sensitive, energetically sensitive people. So we tend to get bombarded by a lot of energy, which also makes us anxious. Again, a lot of times we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know if it's ours or someone else's. It seems to come on very suddenly. So we feel ambushed a lot of the time. We might have felt ambushed in childhood. We feel ambushed by the world. We get overstimulated. Our nervous systems get triggered. So what we try to do to manage this anxiety is we try to control. And INFJs tend to be people who like a lot of control. We like our routines, we like our schedules, we like our environment to be just so. We're very sensitive to noises, smells, other people, energy. So we like things to be very ordered and in just the way we expect them to be. Things that are messy can be very hard for us. We're very sensitive to the tiniest flutter of chaos in our environment, and we do not like it. We do not like chaos. So when we're working with a first draft, when we're working with a novel or a memoir, and we're in the very rough stages where it's just coming out of us, we don't even maybe know what it is yet, and it's coming out kind of misshapen, maybe kind of ugly, kind of weird, definitely fragmented, and we're uncertain, and it's all very unknown, and it feels like chaos on the page. This triggers our anxiety issues. We feel extremely uncomfortable. We don't like it. We feel out of control, and we want to bring the control back in. We want to feel like we are in control again, and we know what's going to happen, and we have a plan, and we know what to expect. That's when we start editing as we write, because editing feels like control. Editing feels like we're cleaning up the mess. We're making order out of chaos. This is actually like a super strength of the INFJ. We're very, very good at making order out of chaos, whether that's emotionally or in the physical environment. And that's great, but that has a time and place. And that will be down the road for your manuscript. That will be definitely after the first draft. That's what the editing stages are for. Those editing stages are for you to bring order out of chaos and for you to clean up the story and clean up the manuscript. But in the first draft, you're just not there yet. The first draft needs to be messy and it needs to be chaotic. Creativity is by its very nature an unstable energy. It needs a lot of room. It needs to come in and kind of dance around, form into this, form into that, lose the form, collapse, make new shapes. It needs to figure out what it is. It needs to figure out where it's going. If it doesn't have a lot of space and freedom to do that, it can't be anything. If you are being too rigid and too structured, and you're trying to, sort of like prune it and polish it just as it's coming out of you, you're going to kill the creative energy. It's like the plant is finally sprouting out of the soil. It just started sprouting yesterday, and you've got the pruning shears there. You're trying to like clip the leaves off the plant because you feel nervous and uncomfortable about not knowing what kind of plant it's going to be. So of course, that's not good for the plant. You need to just let that plant grow. So what do I recommend in this case? If you're a perfectionist, you're an INFJ writer, and you have high anxiety, with coaching, I work on a bunch of different ways to manage anxiety with my clients. But one of the simplest things you can do is keep the writing and editing separate. That means when you're writing, you're only writing. You're not going back and you're not clipping, you're not pruning, you're not rearranging or restructuring or any of that editing type of stuff. You are only writing. And when you're done writing, you put it away. You're not rereading. You're not judging. You're not letting that inner critic come in. The inner critic's going to come in anyway as you're writing. You don't need to bring the inner critic in even further after you're done writing for that day. So keep the writing and editing separate. When you're done writing, put it away. Don't reread it. And people always say, well, for how long? I always recommend until you're done with the entire first draft. Do not reread it. Put it in a drawer. Put it in a folder on your laptop. Next writing session, just concentrate on moving forward. Handwriting also can really help with this because with handwriting, it's a lot harder to go back and edit. When you're typing, especially if you're a fast typist, it's very easy to go back and delete a word or kind of like change that sentence around. If you really want to slow yourself down and kind of put a preventative measure there, handwriting can be really helpful for that. So as always, please subscribe to my newsletter. If you subscribe to my newsletter right now, you get a free copy of Firefly Magic, Heart-Powered Marketing for Highly Sensitive Writers. It's my marketing book for intuitive writers. Please subscribe to my channel as well. If you enjoy this kind of content, if you're an intuitive person, an intuitive writer, if these videos are helpful to you, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get lots more info on all of this stuff. And if you have your own story or experience or any sort of insight into anything I've talked about today, please feel free to leave a comment below. A lot of times your story or your experience or, just your insight into a situation, it's helpful to other people who are stopping by and visiting this video and reading the comments. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy writing.